Welcome to Take It EV, your go-to podcast uncovering the world of electric vehicles and the clean energy revolution, and evolution as well. I'm Greg, your host, and I'm thrilled to have you here today. Thank you for listening. We have an awesome interview for you today. We've got a special guest joining us, David Martell, a visionary behind Polar Network and currently CEO of Andersen EV charging. And he'll be sharing his invaluable insights with us. Before we dive in, a quick heads up, this recording was made at Fully Charged Live, so there's going to be some background noise. Despite that, I of course want to express my sincere gratitude to the wonderful team at Fully Charged Live, especially Dan Caesar and Robert Llewellyn, for granting me access to the show. This made episode like this possible. I would like to thank today's sponsors, my awesome patrons. If you would like to support this podcast, it's totally optional. Just check out the patreon.com/takeitev. I would really be grateful if you do. If you do, support me. But again, totally optional. Now let's embark on an exciting conversation as we delve into the industry and the latest developments in EV chargers. You're listening to Take It EV. I've got David from Andersen with me. David, introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing. What's going on?
Hi. Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on this. My name is David Martell. I'm the CEO of endevours PLC, which owns Andersen. My background is I've been involved in the EV industry for I think 15 years now. So, and in 2008, I formed ChargeMaster. We built that up to be the biggest manufacturer and operator of charging points with 400 staff, the biggest public charging network, Polar, over the following 9 years. And we sold it to BP. So I then took a couple of years off, but recognised that the EV industry was still in its infancy. Lots of new cars coming on board. Government saying by 2030 all new cars have got to be electric. So I could see there's still a great business opportunity. So formed endevours, and we launched the endevours One product in April 2022, which has gone very well. It's a high-tech charging point for home use and business use with a pin, so you can select a number of different users, different reports and so on. And then in October 2022, we saw that Andersen EV had gone into administration. So we negotiated a sale of the business, and within a week we completed it. Andersen's a great product. It's unique in the market. The fact that it's got over 100 different specification choices in terms of colour, finish and so on. It's got a very clever cable arrangement where although it's a tethered unit, the cable is completely hidden when it's not in use. So we bought it in October. We've grown it. We've recapitalised it. It's gone very, very well. We're growing sales growing every month by about 15%. And we're here at Fully Charged showing it off, and we're very pleased with it.
That sounds amazing. Do you mind talking about your previous endeavours, or is there any,
No, before ChargeMaster, I ran a company called Traffic Master, a telematics company, and we floated that on the London stock market. But I've always been passionate for the last 15, 17 years about electric motoring. I think I've done 500,000 electric miles. I've had so many electric cars that I can't recall them all. So very passionate about helping people go electric. And we're pretty good at growing a business from a low key to something very successful. We sold ChargeMaster to BP for 130 million. I didn't own all of it, but I owned close to a third of it, so we did quite nicely out of that. And we look at doing a similar thing again.
What made you start, ChargeMaster as a business?
Well, this is going back to 2008, 2009.
Yeah, because back then, if you think about it, rapid charging, back then, obviously, not too many electric cars on the road.
Very few, yeah.
Yeah, so the customer base obviously limited. What made you, that's like early pioneering. Like, what made you go that way?
Well, in those days, we got through a previous business, Traffic Master, got a lot of connections in the motor industry, a lot of friends in the motor industry, and we could see this move towards electrification. It was happening, and thought, well, actually, there's going to be a big business opportunity in getting involved in charging. Car manufacturers don't know much about charging cars, and didn't really think they were going to get involved in it. So it was really an opportunist thing. We saw the business opportunity. I've got a bunch of guys around me that tend to come to where I'm going in terms of business, including my Chief Technical Officer, Jeff Solomon. And between us, we develop the products that we think the consumer wants. And we grew ChargeMaster from literally 2 people. I can remember the first Christmas lunch we had with just a couple of us there, and steadily built it up and went very well. Initially raised some venture capital money to do that. The venture capitalists all did very well out of it. And I'm glad to say, obviously, with the latest venture they're doing now, I could finance most of it ourselves. So fundamentally, I'm a businessman, but with a passion for electric technology and electric motoring.
I mean, it's amazing to me because one of the things that you often hear is, I'll buy an electric car. I mean, what I used to hear, I've been driving electric since 2016, so not as long as you have, but, quite a long time by now. 2015 actually. And what I quite often heard from people back then was, oh, I'll buy an electric car when there's enough chargers on the road. And you would hear from car manufacturers, OEMs, oh, we'll build electric car where there's a demand for it. And, it's like a vicious circle. And somebody has to break it. And, it's always amazes me that somebody comes in and says, no, we'll do this, even though it's not very popular now, but I can see this is going somewhere.
Well, it's a matter of seeing the business opportunity and using a bit of commercial judgment on where it's going. I mean, most people, I think the press don't, the media overall, unfortunately paint a bit of a complicated situation for charging an electric car. It's actually very easy.
Yeah.
Particularly if you've got off-street parking. You don't have to have off-street parking, but 70% of people do. And if you have off-street parking, put a charging unit at home. You can have low-cost electricity, often 10 pence a kilowatt hour, so maybe a third of the cost of running your car compared with using maybe public charging. And a lot of people ask me, well, how long does it take to charge your car? And I always say 3 minutes, because I get home at night, I plug it in, go in, have my dinner and go to bed.
Yeah.
And I come out in the morning and it's fully charged. So it's very simple. People make it unnecessarily complicated, and with Andersen we try to make the whole process easy and an attractive proposition. In terms of public charging, well, most EVs these days will do 200 miles. There's very few that do less than that, and on a full charge. If you've got 200 miles, for 90% of the time, you never need to think about anything about charging apart from at home. I mean, I do 20,000 EV miles a year, and I've only used public charging 3 times in that year. So, and then, I had to go up to north of Birmingham the other day, and it was a journey I don't do that often. But on the way back, I thought, okay, well, I'll stop just the motorway service area to top up. Had a cup of coffee, put 30 miles in 20 minutes, and carried on, and it all worked. So I think the charging experience actually overall is pretty efficient now. People, I'm sure 120 years ago when people said, but what about these horseless carriages and what are you going to do to fuel them? Because there's no petrol stations around. Well, before very long, there were petrol stations because there's a commercial need for them.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a situation, as you probably see here at Fully Charged Live. There's a number of public charging companies. Some of the oil majors, BP, Shell, others are also putting rapid chargers in. It could be more. I think when I sold the business to BP and I was involved in their strategy for a year before I left, I said that you need to put rapid chargers in every BP station. So if you see a BP sign, there's a rapid charger. They're not there yet, but they will be. Same with likes of Shell and so on. Charging's pretty straightforward, and particularly charging at home, where it's so easy. If you had a petrol car and you could fill it at home, you would do that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's it. This is something that nobody who's never driven an electric car for a while can comprehend, is the fact that your charging station is at home.
Yeah.
So I have so many other questions that I can ask you about the ChargeMaster and things, but I don't know which way you want to go. But with Andersen, the main proposition is obviously a good-looking charger that kind of blends in with the environment, and the cable is hidden so you can't even see it. 90% of the time when I drive past a house that has one of them, I don't even see it straight away.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly the point. They're the two key. It's got lots of nice features. It blends. It works with solar, works with low-cost tariffs. But the main unique aspects of it are that it looks attractive. You've got different fascias, different colours, over 120 different variants of colour and finish. So you can blend in with your house. And it's got a cable which wraps up inside it and is cleaned automatically when you put it in with some brushes. So it looks attractive. It's unique in that area of the market. We got a preferred supplier with Jaguar Land Rover and with Porsche. We're in discussions with other luxury manufacturers. And we see as the market goes forward that more and more people will be discerning about what goes on the side of the house.
Yeah.
You don't want to, there's a lot of wall boxes that, you just got a cable hanging down. It works, but, it looks pretty scruffy on the side of your house. And, so our Andersen unit might cost, £300 or £400 more than others. But if you're spending a lot of money on an EV, maybe a lot of cars, these days you could easily spend £50,000-60,000 more. Porsche maybe over 100,000, a Range Rover £100,000, to spend a little bit more on having something that's aesthetically very pleasing, that you're proud of when you've got visitors around saying, look at this, where's the charging point? You can't see it. It's a good one investment. You probably know if you buy a new car these days, particularly at that sort of level, you get an option list where you can have different colour lighting inside. You've got different wing mirrors. You can have carbon trim and things like that. And those options are often very, very expensive. And so to spend a few £100 in getting a really nice looking charging point is something more and more people are going for.
Yeah. You mentioned the solar.
Yeah.
What level? So I've got a Zappi, which is my energy product. It's quite famous for the redirection of solar energy. Does Andersen work the same way? Or,
our unit does everything the Zappi unit does in terms of solar integration with off-peak electricity. So you can choose to just use solar. So if you've got your car parked for 4 or 5 days, you can leave it on. It'll charge it completely, even in the British climate. You can choose to use a mixture of solar and the grid. So it does all that. The same with off-peak electricity. Increasingly going forward, we've had a disruption in the energy business in the last 2 or 3 years. It's now getting to the stage where energy companies are looking for customers, and they're looking for customers that will use electricity at times when there's plenty of supply. And EV is perfect for that, because you don't you don't do your cooking too much at 2 o'clock in the morning.
No.
But you do charge your car, so it's
Yeah.
perfect. The EV's perfect for using some of that renewable electricity that's available that time of day. So we see increasingly energy companies that are offering tariffs that are very attractive if the charging point can use it. And I always make the point that people, I know, with petrol and diesel, there are a number of apps around which show you where the cheapest fuel is, particularly used by taxi drivers and things like that. And people will go maybe a diversion of a mile or so to get petrol 2 or 3 pence cheaper than somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that's maybe a very small saving. With electric charging, you can literally do more than halve your cost.
Yeah.
Public charging, as you know, is pretty expensive. And so charging at home, particularly if you can take advantage of solar and you can take advantage of low-cost tariffs, is certainly. I think as the market matures, people are going to get, and obviously people with podcasts like yours, we're helping to get the message across. People recognise that actually they can save an awful lot of money.
Oh yeah, we currently have 7.5 pence per kilowatt hour at night.
Yeah.
Between midnight and 4:30, I think.
Yeah.
Which it costs me like £2 to charge the car.
Yeah.
From 0 to full. If I wanted to, probably a little bit more. I can't really do that much maths in my head in the morning, but it's cheap. Let's just
and people, I think where we can spread the word is let people know that.
Yeah.
And that actually makes running an EV very, very attractive. And particularly if you mix it with solar, and it's something that's so easy too, because if you've got the right kind of charging point, like the Andersen unit, it does all that sort of stuff automatically for you, so you don't have to consider. Okay, I've got we have an app that is very intuitive, and so you just set it up so that you let it know what you want. If you want to boost it and charge more quickly, you can do that very easily. You can wake up in the morning and see, what your car's done overnight, by just looking at your app whilst you're, getting out of bed. So it's great, it's a great experience. And I think, the very fact that there's so many people at, shows like this shows that there's more and more people going towards electric motoring.
Oh yeah, I didn't mention the fact that we are fully charged live, which is why there's so many noises going around in the background.
Okay.
But yeah, this show, I've been here 3rd or 4th year now. It just grows steadily every year. There's more and more people coming in, more and more different businesses showing, and I'm just amazed. I remember one of the first ones of these was just the whole or even half of it.
Well, they originally had the Silverstone, didn't they?
Yes, yeah. It was quite small by comparison.
Yeah.
Anyway, so with the Andersen, we obviously, as we get getting the electrification, domestic electrification of cars and other things going, there's going to be more and more demand to have multiple chargers at home, potentially. I don't think that's the case, even if you have 2 cars, but there might be times when you need to charge 2 cars.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself expanding into that, or do you have any
We
offering?
do that already.
Okay.
In my home, we got 2. My wife's got an electric car. I've got an electric car, so we got 2 units.
Okay.
The limiting factor normally is the supply into the house.
Yeah.
Most cars charge at 7 kilowatt, which is fine for most, but to charge. Most houses have got a maximum 100 amp supply to the house, so we have the ability to balance the power between 2 units, and that's something I agree with you. It's going to be more and more. If a 2-car family wants to charge at the same time, you probably often won't be able to charge at the full rate with both cars, because nothing to do with the charger unit or the car, it's the fact of the supply going to the house.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, in mainland Europe, most houses have 3-phase supply.
Correct, yeah.
Fairly unusual in the UK. About 30% of our chargers a supplied three-phase. We do a three-phase 22 kilowatt unit as well as a 7 kilowatt unit. But the thing is to give flexibility, and if you want to, if somebody wants to upgrade their supply, it's often quite expensive, and often it's unnecessary because you don't need to have top your car up every night. Particularly, like my wife is often home in the daytime more than the nighttime. So, nighttime I can charge my car and my wife can charge in the daytime.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So, and you can set all this up pretty easily.
Yeah, I charge at home. I work from home most of the time, and unless I go to a show like this or visit family or people, other friends. But yeah, in the summer, it sometimes gets to the point where there's enough solar energy going into the car that we have to go for a drive in the evening, just so that next day we can top up that much more. So we just have a nice jolly in the evening when it's in the summer. When it's a nice
free
day.
of charge.
Exactly, quite literally.
Yeah.
Even though it's obviously from solar is much cheaper than even using the cheap electricity at night.
Yeah.
And I think going forward, I'm often surprised. We are fully charged, and there's quite few other car charger manufacturers here, and loads of them don't have that option. And I always kind of wonder, this is one of those things that's probably not difficult from a technical perspective, but it adds so much more value.
Absolutely, and I think increasingly the customer will want something that's intelligent, that can do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we cater for that not only you've got an attractive product, but you've got something that does everything. We got, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we got a lot of experience in this industry. We've got a great technical team. So as more and more opportunity, electricity tariffs get smarter and smarter, we're always keeping ahead of the game so we can work with those to give the customer low-cost charging. And indeed, I think that area of the market is going to, expand and expand. And people want something that's easy to use too, don't they? They don't want to, have to spend, hours looking at how do I work this app, how do I figure it all out. They want to be able to plug it in and it charge and to know that it's charged, have confidence that it's all working. It's all actually very, very straightforward. And we in the industry with Andersen, we're trying to make it not only straightforward and easy to use, but something that actually looks attractive on the side of the house.
Yeah, going back to your previous ventures, then because the car charger sounds amazing, and I'm gonna have a nosy around your booth and have a look at it. And if I could get a unit to review, I'll be happy to take it home for a spin. Going back to the ChargeMaster, it must have been pretty hard to find hardware back then.
Find hardware?
Yes.
We developed it all ourselves.
Oh, okay.
So we designed the electronics, the PCB. The units weren't as sophisticated in those days. We hadn't got an app in the early days. We had a 7 kilowatt and a 22 kilowatt unit, effectively a dumb charger. So you have to go through all the safety approvals, EMC and all the rest of it. And we probably had 18 months, 2 years development. We launched the first ChargeMaster charger, and you see them still around. I mean, they're the oval ones that...
Yeah.
And I know friends who've still got them after 10 years. But fairly basic. In those days, there was a subsidy for home charge units.
Yeah, you could get them for free for a while, actually.
For a while, you get them for free. That was abused by a lot because people were taking abuse of it.
I still know some people who never own an EV, but they have a charger on their drive.
And they were probably paid to put it on their drive. It was a mistake by the government. But so we started with the home charger unit. We did public charging in the posts, both 7 and 22 kilowatt. We developed a DC 50 kilowatt unit and established a public network with some 7,500 chargers across the country. And as I say, it went very, very well. We were going to float the business on the stock market, and then I had approach from BP, and I said, well, if we can negotiate the right kind of terms, we'll sell rather than float it. So it was fun. A lot of the people, I've got quite a number of people that work with me at ChargeMaster came across to the current business.
Okay.
A lot of experience there. My head installation engineer was with us at ChargeMaster. We had 35 electricians on the road there. My PA and office manager was at ChargeMaster. She's with me now. So we got and same with, as I mentioned,
good team basically.
A good team, yeah. And it's, I think we're pretty good at growing a business, and the focus is making sure that what we produce is what the customer wants.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day,
yes,
that's the key. That's got you got.
They pay the bills, right?
Well, you got I can remember people I've dealt with who are involved in the currently involved in the oil industry say, we're going to blend the market so that everybody wants to charge at a filling station with their electric. Well, you can't blend the market. You've got to go basically the consumer will do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And charging an EV at home is the easiest possible thing to do.
Yeah, like you say, 3 seconds, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Plug in, walk away.
Exactly. and as you mentioned a few minutes ago, it can be cheap, it can be free.
Yeah. So did you guys were at any point involved in because ChargeMaster, I remember visiting the place
in Luton or Milton
yeah, in
Keynes?
Luton.
Yeah, Capability Green.
Just to do the test drives because you guys had a program where you would give a car for a week if you won the raffle.
That was at Milton Keynes, yeah, the EV Experience Centre.
Yeah, but I'm sure there was one in Luton as well.
We possibly did it from Luton. Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
But at some point, I've seen you guys had inductive charging as well. Are you still thinking about or looking into it? Or
we had a partnership with Qualcomm, the big American company.
Yeah.
They were actually one of our shareholders, a small shareholder in ChargeMaster, and Qualcomm had developed, they'd actually bought the technology off a New Zealand company called Halo. And we worked with them to commercialize it. We had a number of cars, a Nissan Leaf, a BMW i3, used for demonstration. We had a unit outside our office, you might have seen. And it works. The challenge we worked with Formula E to put inductive charging on the BMW i8 course cars, safety cars, and to promote it. That was being paid for by Qualcomm. The challenge with inductive charging is it's a bit chicken and egg. You need to have the cars with the equipment on. You need to have the infrastructure, and from a car manufacturer's point of view, it's the technology. It basically involves a big copper coil on the bottom of the car, and a controller and the rest of it. And by nature, that is quite heavy and quite expensive. And there's two things car manufacturers are always trying to take off their car is weight and money and cost.
Yeah.
And so it will come, as it's come with mobile phones. A lot of mobile phones you can charge inductively, wirelessly, because it's great. The idea that you can park your car at home or park your car outside the office and just get out of it and it charges. It's great.
You get away with, you reduce that 3 seconds to 0, basically.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about it at all. And the technology works. I think the commercial side of it's going to take a little bit of time. I would see maybe 5 years. You'll get one manufacturer. I mean, it's quite easy to do. BMW, we were working with BMW on a wireless charging system for the home. They would sell the pad that goes in your garage at home with the car. Well, they're actually leasing it because it's quite expensive. The challenge they got, so basically when you bought the car, you could put the pad in the garage, so when you got home, you just charged wirelessly. So it didn't have to be compatible with other manufacturers' units, because that's the other thing. That's the challenge there is just cost.
Okay.
And I would say this will probably come at some of the higher end cars. They withdrew it from the market because it just wasn't commercially viable.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's, the kit needs to be in the car. It's if it costs money to put in the car, and then you have to put something in your drive, the overall cost is going to be thousands probably.
It came out at a cost of $3 or $4,000.
Yeah.
So it was, but it'll come. It's a very attractive proposition.
Yeah. I think the only problem with these things is that I, when I tested, it's one location is the parking. The fact that you have to park very carefully. You can't just turn up on your drive.
The system we had a little screen in the car with arrows, so you could see whether you're aligned.
Yeah, but have you seen people parking in the public car parks?
Well, you have to make the assumption people can follow that, but it's not too difficult. And the system that we developed was sufficiently tolerant that you could, you didn't have to be ultra precise. As long as you're within a few inches of the location, it would tell you. And if you're a little bit offset, it just loses efficiency. It'd still work.
Okay. Any other exciting things that you guys were working on, or can I ask you, what do you see going on in the future? What do you think? What do you see the industry is doing? In the next 5 years. We talked about the inductive charging. You think might make a return? Yeah. Anything else you?
I think more and more people will have EVs. Most EVs. There's going to be a big shift towards some of the Chinese manufacturers.
Yeah.
I don't think, I think the consumer is going to be sport for choice.
We already are.
We already are to a degree. Yeah. But some of the Chinese market's the biggest in the world now for EVs. It's going to, and some of the manufacturers over there, the quality is really good. The Teslas that are built in China are actually better quality, in my opinion, than the ones built in Germany and in California.
Interesting.
Probably in that order. And some of the new Chinese manufacturers, all our electricians that install our charging points for Andersen are we want them to be driving around the country in EVs. There isn't an electric light van that has sufficient range on the market at the moment, which is crazy. I think that's going to change in the next year. And we need 200 miles at least. And so we have a fleet of MG5 state cars. We've got, 15 or something like that. Great MG is old British brand, but of course it's Shanghai Automotive, and it's a really good car. Yeah. Good quality, all right. It hasn't got some of the bells and whistles that some European cars are, but it's very good and very well built, and a 7-year warranty. So we see Chinese coming very strongly into Europe, but also from a charging point of view, I think giving a bigger variety of the aesthetics on a car, we think it's very important. People are going to be more and more demanding in terms of what the unit looks like. They want it easy. They want it to work with solar, work with off-peak electricity more and more, and they want it to be simple to use. So you buy your EV, you don't need to open the user manual to see how to charge it.
Just like you do with your phone, right? You don't have to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. So nice, more and more sophisticated apps. It's exciting times. I think wireless charging will come. It's going to be a matter of which OEM is brave enough to take it. I'm not a great believer in battery swap. Some of the Chinese manufacturers, you probably know, are doing that in China. It only works with one brand really, because every OEM has their own intellectual property in the battery. Yeah. And therefore you can't really swap a battery unless it's the same mark and model. So I don't think that will happen on a big scale. I think just more and more and better quality, better range. I'm a great, now when EVs first came out, you'd probably remember the first Nissan Leaf probably had a 80-mile range.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, and if the heater. I know one of our guys at Chargemaster used to live in Basingstoke. We were based in Luton, and his Leaf was a couple of years old, so the battery was starting to degrade. And in the winter he'd come in with his coat and everything on because he couldn't have the heater on as he drove to work. I think now most EVs have got a pretty efficient, and the batteries, as I say, 200 miles appears to be the norm. If you've got 200 miles, I think that's pretty adequate. If you've got 300 miles, that's great, but 200 miles is adequate. Yeah. So yeah, more of the same really, which is very exciting really.
Yeah, and with regards to Andersen, do you guys going to be, or are you involved in public charging at all? Or
no, we don't intend to be involved in public charging. There's plenty of people already. We don't. Andersen is home charging, and we will be bringing out workplace charging.
Okay.
We don't. I think public charging, although there's a lot of publicity in the media about not enough public charging, is coming. There's plenty of people in that. Both destination charging and rapid charging. All the major players in energy will have charging networks, and you don't need to have an app for each one of them. By law now, everyone has to be usable on a contactless credit card. So you don't need to worry about whose make is it. You just have a credit card. So we're not getting involved in public charging, but we will be doing workplace charging. Most companies, we believe, will all their parking areas will have chargers on for their staff and for their guests.
Makes sense if you're working for a company and you want to drive to work every day, you need
exactly.
to plug in somewhere. Right?
Yeah, and in our office, we got chargers outside, and we got, of the 40 staff, we got half of them with EVs. So we got outside the office, quite a number of cars being charged all the time.
Great. And in terms of like the future of Andersen, what do you see? What can you say anything about like what's coming next or anything?
We're expanding, as I say, our sales are growing pretty rapidly. We expect more and more partnership with car manufacturers, with energy companies as well, and we will be expanding into Europe later this year, some of the key markets in Europe. But we're very proud of the fact that it's well built, it's reliable. We've got a supply chain well established, so that if you order one online today, it's shipped tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Despite the fact that there's a choice of 120 different variants, so our production line is sort of pick and place. So the core unit, plus if you want a wooden fascia, that's just fitted on, so put in with the unit, and it works. And also with a premium product such as Andersen, we need to give a high level of customer service. So we've always got somebody there 6 days a week to talk to if you want some advice. One of our sales team at Andersen offer you consultation. So if you are thinking about buying an EV and thinking about charging and you're not sure what you need, you can book online a consultation for 20 minutes with our salespeople. So no obligation.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'd like to encourage people to buy a charging unit.
Yeah.
But with a lot of them, they just say, well, I'm thinking of buying a BMW or a VW or a Tesla. How do I charge it?
Yeah, yeah.
And the level of education, unfortunately, you still go into many car dealer showrooms, and the salesman doesn't know an awful lot about EVs. So our team of experts is there to help people.
Yeah, I always tell people when they go and buy a car at a dealership, just go in and know what you want, because they'll try to sell you whatever the flavour of the month. They have to push that month.
Indeed, and often you'll know more than they do.
Exactly, I hear that all the time. You probably know more. Bonus question, if I may. The vehicle to grid. What is your thoughts about that? What's your thinking?
I tend to be somewhat controversial on V2G, vehicle to grid, because fundamentally the technology works, no problem with that, but I ask the question, why do you want it? Because the issue is most people use their car, not everybody, but most people use their car in the daytime, and they go home and they charge at night when they go to bed. So you're putting the energy into the car at night time and using it in the daytime. The concept of when you get home at night in the car, plugging it in so you can take energy out of the car and put it to the grid doesn't work if the car hasn't got any energy in it.
Yeah.
And that's a fundamental flaw that I tend to think that's why I admit to being fairly controversial about it, is that I think it's a technology looking for an application.
I have to agree as an engineer, I see the same problem. You're not there when you need it, and in the middle of the night you want to charge. And also from solar perspective, your solar production is going to be during the day when you're probably not there. Unless you're like me, when you work from home. But yeah, most people are not going to get the full use out of it.
I do think there's applications for, like some of the American pickup trucks are doing, using the vehicle as an energy storage mechanism for when you're camping and things like that.
Oh yeah,
I love the idea.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I love the idea that you can go touring. You've got a pickup truck, you stop and go camping, and you plug all your TV, your barbecue and everything into the vehicle. I love that.
I saw people on YouTube driving one of those F-150 Lightning, which is a massive truck. And having a band standing on top of the bed and just playing in the middle of a field to cows or whatever.
Running off the battery of the car.
I think that's brilliant.
I think that's great. But I think the technology V2G works, but why do you want it? That's where
I think I have to agree. Anyway, thank you, David, for your time. Anything else I should mention?
No, you're welcome. I mean, if anybody wants to learn any more about Andersen, it's we got the Andersen EV website and lots of graphics of the unit, customer case studies and things like that. We've got over 13,000 happy customers, and it's going very well. We're very excited about the future. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk today.
Thank you for spending the time.
Cheers.
Thanks. I hope you enjoyed this discussion with David. I think it was amazing. Thank you, David, for your time. Thanks to Evie from Andersen for organizing this. And remember, if you have any feedback, suggestions for future episodes, feel free to reach me out at TakeItEV or connect with me at Mastodon, at TakeItEV, at mastodon.social. And listen, if you're not on Mastodon, you're missing out. There's loads of really cool folks there. If you have email, you can have a Mastodon account. It's that easy. Trust me. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe. Leave a review, hopefully positive. If you have any negative or scolding comments, perhaps don't, or just send me an email. Share the podcast with the fellow EV enthusiasts. If you know somebody who's not listening to it, please do let your friends know. I would like to grow this podcast beyond what it is now. And of course, stay tuned for more content because we're just going to keep on exploring the world of electric vehicles and the clean energy revolution. Anyway, until next time, take it EV.